Good morning, welcome to Morning Review. This is Kim speaking on Wednesday, the 27th of July. So it's FOMC day today, so it's the second day of the FOMC, the Fed meeting in the US by 7 p.m. this evening, or at 7 p.m. this evening, we will get the statement that they release, and the markets will either go flying or just stall, whatever. But it really, traders and analysts are looking to see whether they are going to put another increase in the interest rates this year or not. Personally, I think that it will start getting a bit dovish, but they have had some good numbers coming through, so we'll see. Right, looking at the euro dollar, and yesterday the euro flew up at one stage, looks really quite positive, air kissed the 4-hourly 50 and dived. And now, again, it's looking this sort of bear flaggy pattern on this 4-hourly chart. That if we see the lows taken out, well, we could see a continuation to the downside. I had this yesterday afternoon. It just sort of carried on breaking through the 21. Had a little rally, but rolled over again and eventually caught the daily pivot. I do like stats and Met. Today we've already done the daily pivot, so to me it looks like it's fair dues if it starts breaking down here for the short side, maybe back down towards the daily S1. Had a decent range yesterday, all in all. Now the ranges may be a bit stifled today, and it could be a bit quieter for some. But if we move on to cable, we've got the GDP numbers out this morning, so I would expect some good volatility around that. Let's look from the daily perspective, and again, look at that small ranging day. Relative to recent anyway, and pretty relative to recent. I'm just looking right the way back to May sort of time, and perhaps it's more normalizing in terms of the range, but all the same, would expect a reasonable amount of movement on cable, but it's quite spiky on the 4 hours. You can see sort of quite big tails on the candles, or wicks on the candles, and then the price of the bodies are quite small, which is a real sign of indecision to me. There's no real trend in this market at the moment, and it could yet still manage to push up, but I'm quite neutral on it as I look at it like this. And when you look at this hourly pattern, how else can you be but neutral? It's got no upward or downward trend, just a sideward trend that we're sitting in at the moment. So from this sort of point, where am I looking? Well, I was looking across the lows here potentially. Again, it's hit the daily pivot. Maybe post 8 o'clock it has to be. If it starts breaking this trend, I may have to redraw it, review it. But I'll be looking for yesterday's lows and the S1 there potentially. And it makes it quite simple because it's in such a tight range here. Alternatively, if we do get any sort of movements, and then may look at this, keep an eye on this trend throughout the trading day, and if it starts pushing up, well, we've got the yesterday's highs and then potentially the R1. But the ranges are tight. I expect this morning to be relatively tight, but we do have GDP coming out at 9:30 on the pound, which may be, if we had anything particularly positive, may see the pound move up a bit. I think if we see anything negative, then we'll see the pound running back down towards the lows. I almost feel like I should go and get my euros today before 9:30. Okay, dollar yen. Right, so the yen recovered a little bit yesterday. I say dollar yen recovered a bit yesterday, and it pushed back up a little bit. Although there is this sort of thoughts that the package that AB is introducing and the crew may not be sufficient to create the action that they're looking for in Japan. But it has pulled off quite strongly this morning so far. It's retraced quite a part of that move, but he's trying, I think is the word. Got overbought. The inflection point came in at 4 o'clock this morning there, rolled right the way back towards its 21s there again. Pushing up again at the moment, but well, if it can get a run, it's difficult for me to see an entry on this time frame because I'd normally be looking at some sort of trend break to confirm that I mean, perhaps if we get back above that 60-minute 200, I may be interested. I wouldn't be interested because I won't trade it, but if I was trading it, that is, if that makes sense. I'm sure it does. I don't trade the dollar yen very much. Right, okay. Aussie dollar. To me, this looks weak where we're looking at the moment. We've still got this sort of, in the bigger picture of things, we've got this sort of, well, it's not a flag anymore, but this sort of rising trend that's sort of running in here. But it looks like it wants to maybe come down and break that at some point. He's sort of tried, well, if I put it to the previous there, lows there, it had broken that a little bit. I'm going to put it to the more near-term low there. Should be a bit more selective. You can see it's chipping away at that level now. It's got the daily 50 below, which may be a sort of a target. If it does start breaking down, it's typical this time in the morning. We're seeing this sort of, well, it's actually pulled back down again now, but retracement, okay, got a bit oversold. The inflection point at 4 o'clock as well. So real spiky old action with the inflection point working there, pulling right the way back to 21. So if you're trading through the Asian session, some nice trades on the likes of the both the yen and the Aussie dollar through that period. Anyway, for now, I'm looking at this, and as I say, this to me looks weak and looks like it could roll. Canadian dollar. Okay, so look at bigger picture first, and again, let's just look at the oil before we look at the oil even. So as suspected yesterday, continued down, breaking through the monthly S2. Oil could be on for the 200 at this rate. It's or let's look at the weekly pivots on the right hand side here. It's already through its S1 and heading down towards the S2 there as well. So may get a bit of support off that sort of area. I was looking at these lows here, and it sort of diverged a little bit across on the 4 hourlies, but to me it still looks very, very weak. As we know, divergence on the bigger time frames can they're not always the most immediately accurate. You'd look at the shorter time frames for the point of taking the trade, but this does look weak to me when you're seeing this break of the trends here on the shorter time frame on oil. So again, looking like it could roll some more, or is rolling some more. Okay, so that should push the Canadian dollar up, which we're seeing at the moment. Let's pull back a little bit though first, looking at the daily. So yesterday you saw a bit of a retracement, mainly well, it's afternoon. It retraced somewhat back to the 4 hourly 21 yet again. It had diverged a little bit up in those highs, I noticed, and as I say, it then pulled back that far. At the moment, though, it's getting a bit of a kicker again, and there we go. It's not quite made lower lows than yesterday yet, but it is working on that way, and well, perhaps if the Canadian dollar can get back above its daily pivot, it could push up towards yesterday's lows. Just need to watch it a little bit, because I think it's again we had this, as I say, we had this divergence going on here. We had divergence for oil as well, so just need to watch this carefully, because there could be a point where it flips over and flips back. At the moment, this really is bear flag territory, so if oil starts picking up this morning, I'll just be watching it now. Short term, it was the money flow was really high, so it could push up a little bit higher. But there we go. As I say, news-wise today, then 9:30 GDP figures. We have got the core durable goods at 1:30 in the US, which could give us a bit of a kicker. And then, of course, crude inventories at 3:30, which I'm sure will move the price of oil and potentially a Canadian dollar there. So that will certainly make a bit of a dent in this one way or the other. And then, of course, at 7 p.m. we've got the FOMC statement. So some really key news today. Have a great one. Bye for now.